Good evening, Calvin. So good to see you. Happy Tuesday.
Good evening. Good to see you as well, Cara. Happy
How
Tuesday.
how is your week going so far?
Pretty chill, honestly. It was just Halloween. That was a lot of fun. And the beginning of this week has been pretty chill. Just a lot of like R&D and research, which is really nice. I love some downtime to, just like do some exploration and seeing what's out there, but also just kind of improving my tools and stuff that I use. So just kind of digging into that. And then the next few days are gonna be intense. So I am taking this time to relax, do some research, and just chill before the next few days get crazy. But yeah.
It sounds very well structured, right? If we can't have like consistent middle ground, like let's balance the high with the low then, like a little bit of mellow time and then a little bit of really crazy activity. I love R&D for that reason, right? We just insert it where it's needed to give us like a little bit of reprieve. Um, I feel like I did that a lot in graduate school. And I was like, I don't want to plan an event for my assistantship right now. So I'm just going to research what it means to do this thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, two very important questions from what you just shared. Did you have any costume this week for any occasion? Secondly, did you learn anything really special in your R&D that ended up being quite mind-blowing?
So for costume, I don't know, like Halloween for me, I guess just because like growing up, it wasn't really like a huge thing. But my mom was like, whatever, let's go to church. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Love
But for
it.
some reason, like this year, I was just like, Matrix sounds pretty cool. A Matrix character. And then I'm like, well, duh, Morpheus. So I was Morpheus this year, which was a lot of fun. I had fun dressing up in all black and little tie and everything. And
Oh,
then I just got Dayquil and NyQuil. I just
that is
it was,
fabulous.
yeah, it
Oh
was
my gosh.
chill.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, that was fun. R&D. I've just been using Stream Decks. Stream Decks is kind of just like a macro tool, and it allows you to just program keys to do specific things in any software. So coming from, I guess, well, working with Baselight. Baselight in color is just like an amazing tool, amazing software. They have amazing hardware with blackboards. So I find like a lot of us that move from Baselight or assisting in Baselight and moving into color into DaVinci Resolve, we're always trying to find ways to like hack Resolve into working a little bit like Baselight. So I have these little tools, actually, it's right here. I have these little Stream Decks things, and like I just program them to do different things. So that's what I was working on the last couple of days. It's just like trying to improve them because sometimes a little wonky in Resolve. So just like working and stuff like that. And then making different tools for different cameras. So different look development tools. And then just saving that so I can quickly, put them on projects when clients are in the room or when they're online, just to like move as quickly as possible, but as efficient as possible. So
I
that's
love
what
that.
I'm
So good. I feel like the closest I can relate to that is like an email template in the business world.
yeah.
And like this does wonders. We love a template. And that device you showed me reminds me of like what the DJs use to, mix sounds and stuff. Like that's the closest equivalent I can get to there. Love a good like analogy. But for everyone who's now probably super curious about the work that you do. Anyone who didn't know this person in front of us, we have Calvin Bellis here today, master, awesome colorist, expert person. And I'm so excited to get to know a little bit more about your story, Calvin, and what it means to be a colorist, and how you kind of made that pivot and also like honed in on that niche craft. And so thank you so much for being willing to share and have that story today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. This is already fun.
Yay! We love a little fun on a Tuesday night is not a bad thing. So I'm having a lot of fun too. I love what is particularly fun for me is to know people's like background, kind of upbringing, where they got these cool ideas about their special giftings from. So I'd love to hear more from you, Calvin, about where you grew up, what you were doing, how you started to get inklings that like, oh, maybe this like film world is going to be something that I'm interested in.
Yeah. So I was born in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, like the southernmost island in the Caribbean, east of Venezuela. And then we moved to the United States, to Michigan, where my mom did her doctorate at Michigan State. So just a little Caribbean, like 6-year-old moving to the snowy state.
Oh my
When
God.
we first flew into the US, we flew into New York. And I just remember looking out of the plane and seeing a bunch of like white snow and yellow cars moving all over it. Like, that is a distinct memory in my head. I'm just like, okay, this is already crazy, but okay. But yeah, grew up in Michigan, went to school, did my associates in Atlantic Community College. And there I started getting into, well, I went in specifically knowing that I wanted to do film. To backtrack a little bit, I was doing a little bit of photography. Started like, a small little photography business, just doing like graduation photos and like family portraits, maternities, weddings, that kind of thing. And then shifted from photography to video. And that all started with like my love for outdoors. Like I love backpacking, I love hiking. Obviously, little Caribbean boy moving to Michigan, started snowboarding and snowmobiling and stuff. And with that, like the snowboarding and snowmobiling, I started seeing these films like Art of Flight and That's It, That's All from Travis Rice, who's a pro snowboarder. And I looked up like who's making these videos, like who's like collaborating with these snowboarders to make these things. So of course it was like Red Bull Media House, and then there was another company called Brain Farm Cinema, and they are truly the ones that really catapulted me down this film career, this this idea of like, oh, film could be something that I can work in and do. So started following them on social medias, and like I remember, and I would go to their website at least 2, 3 times a week, and just be looking at their website because their website was so cool. They would have like the films that they were making. They also had the tools that they were using. So they had these cars with like these cameras attached to them. They had the helicopters with their cameras attached underneath it. And me being like kind of a geek and just like technical things like computers and cameras and like helicopters and stuff. Like I was a kid that was watching the military channel, like, whoa. It's just like all these things culminated into being like, okay, these guys are doing amazing, cool things. I want to check that out and do it as well. So definitely went into community college knowing that I was definitely going into film. Now I'm finished up at the community college and then went down south to Georgia to SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, studied cinematography at SCAD. Towards the end, like my senior year, like, I guess like the last half, being a cinematographer, you kind of just like start coloring your own stuff. So I had to learn DaVinci Resolve a little bit, and there was some I would say editing bays because it wasn't like a full-fledged color suite. It's kind of like multi-purpose, but I just would spend a lot of time in there just trying to figure out how to make my image look decent, like good, and like, oh, like these films are coming out, there's like green in the shadows and warm in the highlights. How do I do that? So I just kind of dabbled with that, did a lot of research online, a lot of experimenting. And then my friends caught on that I was coloring my own stuff. So they're like, color mine. And then it's just like, color this one, this one, this one. Oh, Calvin, I heard from this person that you're coloring your films and stuff, color mine. So it kind of got to, I think the most I did for one senior showcase was like between 11 or 15 films. And of course, that's being done within like a week time. And like my friend, at the end of it all, he was like, never do that again. Because of course, we're sitting at my apartment in Savannah at like 4:30 in the morning, trying to render these films and get them out. And then it's just like, okay, take a 2-hour nap and then go to the editing lab and be like, okay, who's next? And then like try to do all these things. Like it was a lot of fun. It was a great learning experience, just like for what's to come later on the road. But yeah, that's to summarize it as best as I can. That's kind of how I started and kind of how I got to where I'm at now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, you did amazing, like fitting all the pieces together so clearly and succinctly. And I appreciate you kind of painting that picture for us. I also think it's so telling and like full circle that you described landing in New York by the colors. You said there was white snow and there was yellow clouds. I just love that you are now a colorist. Like I have to pay more attention to how other people throughout my life like describe things. I think that's so cool that for you, you did remember these distinct, like stark kind of colors that you were seeing in the world around you. And it's so nicely like displays who you are and what you're motivated by. And so to see then that many years later you would be up till 4:30 in the morning, making the colors just right in the shadows, it starts to make more sense. I remember you talking to you about some different resources that were useful to you, like maybe it was lynda.com, or like just like so many hours that you poured into making this really a thing that you could do a cut above the rest. Like if you would, I'd love to hear more about what that pursuit of knowledge was like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the color world, especially now, after the pandemic and stuff, I guess we're like kind of past that. We're in this
I
world
hope
of
so.
2022. We're kind of getting used to the COVID and everything. But there's just so many resources out there. And I feel like because there's so many resources out there, like you're not really, well, my opinion, but it's just like, why are you not looking these things up? Why are you not doing research? Because someone else is going to be doing that research and they're going to be more knowledgeable about the Alexa camera, Alexa 35 that just was released and how it works in color and like the pipeline for color. It's just like, there's so many different things out there that you can be researching. So I try as much as I can to, when I have the time, do this research and look things up. So I guess to quickly rattle off some things, there's obviously YouTube, but I feel like YouTube might be a little wide. And there's always people that are giving their opinion on how different tools in color software work.
Mm.
There's one guy, Darren Moston, on YouTube. I think his stuff is like top notch because he's the type of YouTuber that's like, hey, we're going to talk about this today. Here's how do you do it? Here's what I think you should use, or here are the tools that I think you should use for this application. Thanks, bye. I'm like, the people that are like, here's my intro, and like, oh man, and like, go buy this course and this and this. I'm just like, I just want to learn a little something real quick in like 2-3 minutes. I appreciate your time. Thank you. I'm gonna go to the next thing. So Darren's really good on YouTube. TAC Resolve training. If you look that up if you just Google that, that's a fantastic resource that has a bunch of master classes from, the top colorists in the world. A bunch of company 3 colorists are on there. A bunch of independent colorists are on there. International colorists are on there. Then they've all done like different master classes. So that's another resource that I definitely take a look at, and just like as much as I can, just be watching the videos, pause, take a screenshot, do notes on it, and then just like build some sort of archival for me to go back to. And then there's mixinglight.com. That is another fantastic resource. If you're trying to be a colorist, build a color suite. If you're trying to be a colorist and learn the software, or just trying to be a colorist and learn financing for coloring, like it's all on there. So like Mixing Light is another great one. So I guess those are like my 3 picks.
That's so cool. Thank you. And I'm curious, like I feel like, even if you're super passionate about the thing itself, there can be parts of the process that feel a little bit more cumbersome or mundane. That research for you, the looking at hours and hours of content, the pausing, taking notes, taking screenshots, is that natural for you, or was it a discipline that you had to develop? Like, was there a way that you kept it kind of spicy and interesting, or were you just like naturally jazzed about staring at the screen all day? I'd love to hear anything that you did to stay present in that.
To be honest, Cara, it's so I don't get left behind. That's literally what it is.
Getting
Like,
motivated.
yeah. I mean, I am motivated because, like I said, I think my really close friend, who's pretty much my brother, we were talking like 2 weeks ago. We were talking about his son and how intelligent he is, and how he would just sit in bed and do like math problems. And when I was like homeschooling him, we were dabbling with algebra and stuff. I'm like, huh, that is not me. And he's like, that's not me either, man. Like, we don't get it. But he's like, we're geeks. We like the technical side of things. We like tinkering with things. And I'm like, what? He's like, it's okay. You're a geek. And I'm like, yeah, I am a geek. Like, so I just like that aspect. Calibration for monitors. I was spending 4 days doing research and calibrating my monitor. And each time I don't have like a super expensive colorimeter, so it takes about like an hour or so, and I'm just like sitting there staring at my screen, flashing different colors. And it's just like that kind of thing excites me. So I just like when I do have the time, then I will sit here and tinker at things. Um, Networking, I'm not great at networking at all, but I just like to like do a little bit of research, figure out how to do something. If someone asks me how to do it a month from now, I'm like, I have no idea. Like I have gone on to the next thing. I have fixed my problem. It is working. I can point
Yes.
you to where I looked and found the information. But yeah, that's just kind of how I go about it. I try not to stress myself out too much because there's social media, there's a bunch of like different artists you can be following, and then you can kind of get into like the realm of like, oh, my stuff doesn't look like their stuff. What are they doing? What resources are they looking at to get their images looking in that way? And you kind of get yourself in that judging your work and putting it against other people's work. I did go through that. And I did hop off Instagram for a little bit just to like separate myself from that. And then I got back on Instagram and just kind of use it as like inspiration. So if there's something that my friend and I just started doing this, and we kind of get on phone calls together and we'll analyze like a colorist's grade, but we'll get on, take screenshots and stuff, bring it into our color software. And like, what did they do? What did they do? I guess that's kind of a good fun tip. Because
Yeah.
you kind of want to stay involved in like there's different techniques people are using. Yeah, and it's just like trying to do the research, but trying to have fun with it and trying not to get too stressed out.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think those are all like key things to keep in balance. And also, what I'm hearing as like an undercurrent of it is just being kind of authentic to what your strengths and interests are. Like you like being a geek, like embrace being a geek. And then the network, like you'll let your work speak for itself. And that's, probably a better use of time for how you want to show up and like genuinely are excited to learn. So I think that's super cool. You were talking about some sort of technology that you use a few minutes ago and how it's not like the most fancy versions. You have to like tinker with it to get started. It reminded me, whatever you were saying, of like tuning a guitar before you play it. Is that a fair analogy? Can you tell me more about what you were saying there about
Yeah.
the process of getting started?
Yeah. So like, well, being a colorist, you're obviously looking at a screen.
Mhm.
And the main goal is the screen that you're looking at, it should be as accurate as possible. And then you're like, accurate to what? There are numbers or CIE graphs and like Rec 709 standards. So Rec 709 is like the standard like color space,
Well,
work color space. So it's an output color space. Now I'm trying to make sure I'm saying the right thing.
I will not know either one.
Everyone else will. So it's just like what you're coloring to should be as accurate as possible. So the screen that you're looking at, you don't want it to be skewed warm. And then you're sending like these postings out to clients and they're like, well, why does it look different? So what I was saying was I'm like calibrating my monitor to be as true as possible. And we're basing everything off of that. So clients can have different computers, iPads, iPhones, MacBooks that might be a little bit different, but at least what you're looking at is accurate. So I've done my own calibrations. I've made my monitoring LUTs, but I'm also having like an engineer come in, I think next week to just double check my work. If he says it's good, then I'll feel happy, which will be great. And if he says it's a little bit off, then at least I know and I can tell my clients, hey, this has been calibrated by someone that does this all day, every day, and not like a colorist geek that's just like trying to like tweak this.
That's
Yeah.
so cool to get to bring in those like almost like accountability team members. You're like, let me just get the seal of approval.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
grade A calibration or whatever it's meant to be. But that's really cool. Thank you for explaining it. And I'll come back to so you I'm really impressed by it. I think it was really cool how you decided during that senior showcase that you were going to help your peers, and that was in many ways I think a selfless act, but I think it also really showed that you have this expertise, that you in a field of people who want to do this thing are regarding you in this way and calling on you. And I would hope that they had credits in their shows and that your name was listed there. But I am curious about how we get from that senior week to then I think you go on to work at SCAD, right, at some point in your career as an engineer. Like
Mhm.
tell me about that transition and what comes next for you after you're a senior.
Yeah, so I mean, we're staying on the theme of geek, right? So of course I become an engineer at the
They're
um,
basically
but
synonyms, right?
yeah. Well, I guess all the senior films and stuff, I knew I wanted to be a colorist. That was my goal. So I was kind of treating my friends as clients because I kind of wanted that experience. So after when I was finishing up school and in senior year, I was doing all these films and just doing it in my apartment. And then when I graduated and became an engineer, I was still working at the college. So I'm still have friends that are still going to school at the college. So I used that opportunity to continue to color films. So then I just made like a little suite in my apartment because my roommate moved out. I'm like, yeah, I have a big boy job. I can pay for this place myself. I'm gonna turn it into a color suite so I could have my friends come over and then we can just listen to music and then grade their short films. So that's kind of how that went. While I was in school, I was assisting one of the engineers. Neil is like such a fantastic, and he is and was like such a great mentor to me. Just like, fellow geek showing me how to do everything, like terminate SDI cables and run cables instead of a bunch of black magic hardware and stuff. I just had so much fun working with him. And then when he left the college, he just gave me a call. He was like, "Hey, I'm leaving, apply for my job." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, apply for my job." I'm like, "Well, I guess that makes sense because I'm already working in a department." So I applied for the job, got the job, and then just started working as a post-production engineer there. So it was nice because I got to be in the same buildings as I was as a student, but now in a different capacity, just like as an employee of the college. And I really loved that job because I felt that I could, as someone who was just a student here, there were different ideas and like ways of doing things that I thought I could bring to the table to help the students that were there and incoming students. So I love that job. I love my coworkers. It was like a real family that we created there. So yeah, that was great. And then a friend of mine that I went to school with as well, she started working up here at a post-production house, and she was like, "Hey, they have a colorist position open." And I'm like, "Well, my 3-year plan is not done. Graduate from college, pay off a little bit of debt, then make some savings, and then make the savings to come to New York." And then she was just like, "Well, don't be ridiculous." I'll say that. She's like, "Don't be ridiculous." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll apply." And I applied, and I was telling my coworker that I was working with a SCAD. I'm like, "Well, if I don't get the job, I don't get the job, then I can stay here." He's like, "Calvin, you're going to get the job. Then what are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know if I'm actually going to get the job." Like the next day, I got the job, and I'm like stressed out. I'm like, "No, I don't know what to do. I have to tell my boss and this and stuff." Yeah, so it was kind of wild. Pack up the U-Haul. Of course, I'm in Savannah, so I'm like packing the U-Haul as a hurricane is coming, and just like speeding up the coast, trying to not get hit by this hurricane to like prolong my trip. Because of course, the EP at the post-production company is like, "Hey, we need you here now." So I'm like, I guess I gotta go now.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in New York. Got the job at the post-production company. Was a color assist there, and it was my favorite job that I've ever had because of just how technical it was. Being surrounded by peers and coworkers that are doing the same thing that you're doing, have the same exact interest that you have, but also the mentorship there was like top notch. Like these are people that have been coloring for 15 years, 20 years, like 6 years, and they've just been in that grind for so long that any question you have, you can just ask them, or like be in the environment and just learn so much and soak up so much from them. It was just like my most stressful, my most tiring, my most gratifying and favorite job ever. So I do miss it, but it was just fantastic, and that's kind of how I started the whole color thing here in New York.
That's so beautiful. So, I don't know if this is even a thing, but is there like a traditional role or kind of opportunity for colorists? Like, is working in a post-production environment the main way that people pursue this field? Like, was that a very traditional thing you did? Was it a very untraditional thing to work in that environment? What was that like?
I think maybe a few years back, to get access to the equipment and so on and so forth, it was kind of like find a facility that you like. To get in, maybe be a runner, so like client services. Um, in client services, you're working in different departments. So you're making sure the fruit bowls are filled. You're taking people's food orders. You're moving from like engineering to color to VFX and you're getting to know everyone in the facility and kind of what they do and the jobs that they do and how it all connects together. And then once you figure out the department that you have like a strong interest in, then the EP of that department you can just talk to them and they can see if there's any positions open. So then you can shadow that department. You can sit in there after hours and just like learn from the people that are working there. And then when there's an opportunity that comes up, then you can apply and then move into that department and just be like an assist. And then you can just work your way up that way. From my understanding, that's how a lot of people did it. That's how I tried to do it. I tried to be a runner right after I graduated, but there weren't any positions open or I couldn't make the move at the time. So I was fortunate to just come in as an assist, but I personally think it was harder because I didn't know the structure of the company. I didn't know the facility. So I had a lot to learn day one and it was just like pedal to the metal, just like go. And I was just like, this is overwhelming. This is a lot. But now, because of all the resources out there, I feel like photographers, cinematographers, videographers, they have this interest in video. So they can just go online and look up a bunch of resources, learn how to do color, and then you can color friends films, spec projects, spec commercials, just anything. And then you put your work out there and people notice you. And then you can start tapping production company shoulders and be like, hey, I'm interested. Like, if you have any side projects or any small projects that you want to like do on the side, because like your rate is obviously not going to be like a facility rate. So some people might give you like a shot and then they pass you a project, you do the best that you can and just start trying to build your clientele that way. So I don't think that you have to be at a facility now in order to be a colorist in this day and age. I think there's enough resources out there that you can learn how to be a colorist and learn just like the basics, like the quote unquote rules, and then you can just move on from there. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think so encouraging for people who maybe don't get to go to the SCAD of their, world and pursue that in that more traditional way, that there's still so many resources and so many ways that you can carve your own path. And so wild too that, your story wasn't 30 years ago, like you did this a few years ago and it's already so different and it'll continue to evolve, right? As the world and technology especially move so quickly and keep us on our toes. So your most recent evolution was from the post-production company to yourself embracing freelance. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so what are you loving about freelance now, or what was hard about that transition? I just would love to hear anything about that most recent shift.
Well, obviously the elephant in the room, or like the main thing is money. Like you're freelancing, like you're living in New York, you have rent to pay and bills to pay. So like that was obviously a pretty big concern. But I mean, I was fortunate enough to move into freelance during the pandemic. So at least there's a little bit of a buffer. I had a little bit of a savings. And then of course I was unemployed, so I was getting unemployment checks. So I'm just like, this is the perfect time to just like give this a shot. Like there's no better time than right now. So I gave it a shot. I just started trying to learn and just get a portfolio together and put a website together so that people can at least see my work. And just kind of go from there. Like yeah, like freelancing, I love it. The fact that I'm in control of my own schedule. I was making a joke to my friend the other day. I was like, well, I gotta pay myself today because I'm my own boss. It's just like going into like my LLC and pulling that stuff out. I absolutely love it. I love the freedom. I love managing your own hours. And I love just being able to pick the projects that you want to work on. It's just very freeing. Like, and I've been wanting to travel a lot more. Of course, if you're working for a company or anything, like you're you get time off and you have like your specific days and whatnot. But you know, if you're like, I've been in the city a little too long, it's been like 6 months, I kind of want to get out. You kind of look at your calendar and you're like, I'm not working. And then you just go do what you want to do. And that's one thing I absolutely love about freelance is the freedom. Um, you obviously get a little stressed out when the jobs are not coming in, which inevitably happens because it's like I'm still learning this, but I'm learning that there are seasons and times where the jobs are really coming in, and there's times where people are just like not working, and they're really chill. So I'm trying to learn to take those opportunities to just go fly somewhere and go have fun. There's someone that I've been talking to who's like, I kind of made them my mentor because I'm just like, hey, you have time to talk? And they're like, yeah. And I'm just like, cool. And just like asking a lot of questions. But they were just saying, use these opportunities to help inspire you, especially you're an artist. Wherever you're flying to these different places that you're going, like use these different experiences to help influence your work or use it as inspiration for your work. And that's definitely what I found myself doing this year. Before I talked to him, and I was like, "You're so right. That's exactly what I've been doing, and I'm really been enjoying it." So I've been trying to travel a lot more now, and trying to worry a lot less about the money. Like, oh man, if I'm traveling, I might get asked to do a job. I'm like, I'll get asked to do another job when I'm back. Like, it's just like trying to get over that hump because that was the hardest thing for me. People were like, "Hey, let's go on a snowboard trip." I can't because I might have a job. But
Right.
now I'm like, sounds great. I'll block my schedule off.
That's so cool to get to reach that perspective, I think. And like that aha moment, I love how you described like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. Like I need to go get inspired, right? I think that's so cool. And it's like necessary R&D, right? It's a business trip. But it's a fun
Yeah.
one. It's a snowboarding trip for the sake of inspiration. That is really beautiful. And I think a cool segue to when we talk about, your approach and your style of as a colorist. I know that you've had some influences from now being a New Yorker for a while and coming from the Caribbean and your love of nature. Like, I'd love to hear more about how that all plays in when you go on the snowboard trip, what that means for the next project and how you show up as a colorist.
I found myself being a lot more aware of it now. I find that me personally, I just get caught up in different things and I focus on that one thing. So like building a computer for color, I'll focus on that, but not be focusing on the artistic side of things. So I'm like, cool, I have this computer up and running. Now I have to switch gears and then move into the artistic side. So like, how do I make these colors blend, or how do I make a nice contrast curve to make it pleasing? How much saturation do I put into the image, and so on and so forth. So like now I've been trying to be a lot more aware. So now I'm trying to go to more events that are art based. So this past weekend I just went to ABT, American Ballet Theater's fall season, and I went and saw 3 ballets there, and I'm like, I was obviously very tired from the Halloween weekend, but I'm like, I'm going, I need to go do this. So I went with myself, sat down and just kind of took it all in. And I've been finding myself, obviously it's like ballet and dance and there's lighting and set design. And I just found myself just really staring at all of that and just like, how does this light complement the story? How does it complement the dancer's costume? So yeah, that's definitely one thing I've just been trying to focus a lot more on. Especially living in New York City, there's just so much color. Like even if it's something as simple as graffiti, or it's New York City, so there's always ads everywhere, and the
Yeah.
subway, on the billboards, everything. Just kind of, I'm trying to see like how these colors influence the ad work or whatever they're trying to be pushing, whether it be a show, whether it be a product, whether it be, I don't, I don't know, like events or something. Like I have just been trying to be more aware of how these things make me feel. Even if it's like, obviously as a colorist, you try to work in the dark, so you don't have a lot of light influencing your image. But my favorite part of the day is like EOD when I know I'm done around 6:30, hopefully done around 6:30, and I get to open my window and I know the sun is setting, so the whole room turns gold. And it's just kind of just like this uplifting feeling. And just like, okay, this feeling that I'm getting from this yellow and gold that's coming in, I should be incorporating that into my work. dependent on what the story is, and just like trying to make the audience feel that way, because their brain is taking them back to like, oh yeah, that sunset that I saw that made me feel this way. So yeah, just definitely trying to just take my environment and learning from it and trying to register how it makes me feel, and then putting that into the work that I'm doing and the stories that I'm working on.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's such a cool point of like differentiation too, right? There might be 100 colorists in the world of color making, right? But you are the only one who's walking that commute that you have, every day to your coffee shop, right? And is on the
Yeah,
train line that you're on, and that special sunset from your window. Like those are all really unique perspectives that you get to bring to the table, it seems like, when you collaborate on different projects. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome and so fun to notice. And there's so many ads. I was on the subway last week, and I try to avoid the subway, not my favorite of the public transportation options, but the advertisements are better. There's none on the bus, I don't think. Like I never
Yeah.
see any ads on the bus. And there was one, I think about like when you want cake so badly you're willing to crash a wedding in Central Park, and I'm like, I've thought about that for 10 days. Like I really think that resonates. I really want cake. So I totally get the ads
Yeah, yeah.
making a mark. And lately you've done a lot of saturated work, I think you mentioned when we were talking last. Like, what does that mean exactly? Like the colors are really intense, or I don't know, I would love to hear more.
So I'm always like looking at different DPs and directors and the work that they're working on, and just the content that they're making, and if it's something that I really resonate with, or it's a type of work that or project that I'm trying to work on more, I try to reach out to them. So lately I've been working with some DPs and on some projects that are either shooting with colored lighting, or the costume designer or the set designer is like has a lot of color in it. And I've been having a lot of fun playing with that, because to me it makes it more collaborative. The DP has a vision, the director has a vision, so they're putting these colors into the image on set and pretty much baking it in. And then to me, when it comes to me as a colorist, it just shows me that this is so much more of like a collaborative effort. So not trying to twist and break or move the image away from what they've done, trying to stay as true to what was shot as much as possible. And I just love projects like that. And the last few that I've had like that, I found them to be so collaborative, because I can see what they're shooting for. I can see their intent. And then I get to bring my thought process and like my thoughts on just like how the image might look as well. And then I talk to them about it. I give them like an option, and then we can agree on it, and then we work from there. To me, those are the type of projects that really feel collaborative. Like I love working with people that reach out to me because they've seen some other work. And that's obviously how it mostly works. It's just like they've seen some of your work, they like it, and they want to work with you. And then it's truly a collaborative process of you putting in like your taste or your touch, and then working with them for what they've shot. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love the idea of like relationship in any capacity being about being able to move more intently toward like this shared vision, right? But and that's it sounds like what you're able to achieve when you're really speaking with the thing that was originally filmed, versus like, I'm gonna do it always this way. And so I'm gonna pull us
Mhm.
this whole different place. Like I can imagine that being so satisfying when you get to have that meeting of the minds that makes the product a shared vision that is so much more powerful and so much richer. And so I will pull up our screen and we can talk about some of the projects where you've been able to have that vision come to fruition, so to say. So what are we looking at here?
So this was like a Mass Mutual commercial that was shot by Jared and Danielle. I think that's how you say his name. But I was kind of just reached out to about this project, and I looked at the deck, and I'm like, obviously this is really amazing. This is cool. Like this is the type of work that I've been wanting to do. And me as being a Black artist, my mission is to continue working with other Black creatives,
Mhm.
because I feel like we have a lot to say and that we can bring to the table that is new and refreshing. Because I think that's what it's all about. You're working with certain people that have grown up in a different environment, different location, and I've had different life experiences, and that's what we pour into our work. So this was kind of an example of that, of just it being like a super fun project, and just being able to work on something that's really cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, this was a fun one with Billy D from Mass Mutual. Yeah.
And how did the opportunity come up? Did you already know Billy D, or did you find it online somewhere? Like, what is that like in your
This
process?
one came out of the woodworks, and like this was definitely the one that you get the email. You're like, huh? And then you like and then you make sure your name is in the email. Like, okay, it was meant to come to me. Like, cool. Because I mean, I'm still working on establishing myself. Like my goal, I'm sure we can talk about this later as well, but like my goal is to just be like full-time color and just do it to a capacity of where I have enough experience to where I'm working with like top-notch directors and DPs and agencies and clients and so on and so forth. So to be able to get this job at this caliber, I thought it was such a great opportunity, and I was like super grateful for it. But I had a lot of fun with it. I like the way it turned out, and I've heard some other people like it as well, which is great. That's always the goal. So yeah, it was just kind of like I was cold contacted, I guess. And they're like, hey, we have this project. We'd love to have you on board. I'm like, sounds amazing. Sign me up. And we just did it. Yeah.
That's so cool. I remember when we were getting to know each other, you explained, I think, like with color stuff, it can be helpful to show people like the before and the after, right? To help them understand the difference that was made. Like I look at this and I'm like, beautiful content, but like I can't pinpoint because I don't have the words for like, what makes it the like work on the color make it different from the original. Can you speak to maybe how someone with a discerning eye could see the color stuff that's happening here, or what I should be looking for to be like, yes, that's why this is so satisfying to look at?
I mean, so I'm still learning this because as I feel like new colorists, they tend to learn different ways of doing things and different tools that do different things. So we experiment and try it out on the projects that we get. So like something as far as like the teal and orange look, that is like a blockbuster look. So I've been realizing that I definitely did this myself. Um, People just pumping a lot of colors into the shadows, pumping a lot of colors into the highlights. And sometimes the image or the show or the commercial short film, it calls for that because that's the intent. But the main goal is for you not to see anything, for you to have the reaction that you had and then being like, this looks great. It looks great. Like it looks great. So I've been trying to be a lot more subtle with my grading, with my color work. Like I have some projects, the intense projects that are coming up this week. My main goal for that is to not go ham. Don't go crazy. Don't be injecting a bunch of colors into the shadows. Like I want to be more naturalistic, and that's kind of what I feel like we did here. There's a little bit of like a film emulation look because that's kind of like nostalgic, and just when people are looking at images, they are seeing and feeling that like film look. The warmthness of the film, the softness, a little bit of grain. I did a little bit of that with this spot, and this was definitely one of the spots that I was experimenting with, just to try to see if I can get to like the level of like some of the work that I've been seeing from people that I admire that inspire me with my work. So this was one of those experimental ones where I'm like, hey, do you guys like this? And they're like, yeah, it looks great. Maybe add some more saturation. I'm like, okay, get some more saturation. I'm like, great. I'm like, yay, approved.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun because the work that they did, they captured beautiful images, and my job is just to not screw it up. It's just like they did such fantastic work on this, and I was just really fortunate to be able to work on it for sure.
That's so exciting to see it all come together. Where did this content live? Was it on TV? Was it on the internet? And like, what was it like for you to come across it in the real world, if that ever happened for you?
Uh, I'm trying to remember if I saw this in the real world. I think it's mostly on social media. So like YouTube and stuff, YouTube ads, definitely Instagram and stuff. It's always funny when I see something that I've worked on pop up on Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I did that. And it's like really rewarding and it's fun. So yeah, a lot of the work that I do is on social media and like on the web, like web content. And then the short films and stuff, those goes off to like film festivals and film festival circuits and stuff. Some of them are international, so those are the really fun ones because then you're like, oh, my work is not in just America. It's like in Europe. This is great, or like Asia, Africa. It's like
Yes.
those are the fun ones for sure. But yeah, this one I think was mainly social media.
That's so cool. And those other global ones are a good excuse for more trips, right? Like that's good research.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
necessary
goal.
to
That's the
relate
goal
with
for
the
sure.
audience.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. What is this? This is so cool too.
This was an amazing project shot with my good friend Nico Feldman. This was a lot of fun because we also happen to live together. So working on things like this is just like, hey, come here. And we just hang out and sit here. But he did an amazing job shooting this. And Jordan, the director, he's a fantastic film director. So after Nico and I, we got like a good look that we really liked. Jordan and I had a few sessions together and just really dialed it in for the story that he had in mind. Because as a director, you have to make sure the story that you want to tell is being told through the image, but also using color to help tell that story as well. So this was just one of those projects where, I mean, I personally love it. I love the team that was behind it. Working with friends is amazing and so much fun. But I'm also really proud of the way it came out because this is one of those where it's just like, oh, my stuff kind of looks like so and so stuff. It's just like I'm finally getting it. I'm starting to understand. But yeah, like for instance, this one, lots of teal and blues in the shadows, so you get that like really gritty look. And just this was definitely one of those experimentation ones where you're just kind of like playing and figuring things out and learning how things work. So yeah,
Wow.
it was probably one
That's
of my favorite projects, working with friends for sure.
Oh my gosh, that seems like a dream. Especially, I mean, with certain friend groups that might be hard, like living with a friend when you're not supposed to be ever roommates with them. But this one seems like it's a good thing for sure. And this is a short film, is it? Or is it a full length? Like what is
This was a music video.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So is it different for you working on a music video than a commercial than other stuff? Like, do you have to operate any different way or it's all just like content that needs to be colored? How does that work?
I feel like music videos, you kind of get a little bit more leeway to have more fun.
Mm.
Um, Commercials, agency stuff, especially products, it has to be almost like naturalistic. So you don't get to go as dark because you need to be able to see the content. Like the Mass Mutual stuff, we couldn't go dark with it because obviously it's Billy D and you pay a lot for Billy D's time. So you want to be able to make sure that the actors or products are extremely visible and easy to see and easy to spot. But I feel like music, you can start playing with the color and the image to go with the music. And you're worried a little bit less about the content, not the content, the like products and stuff in the image. So I think you're working more with the story and helping color tell a story instead of with commercials selling products or selling, a campaign or something. Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. And it does sound really fun to get to have that more free form of like, let's just make it work with what we're with our story situation. I'm curious. So I had a magazine when I was in college, and there was people who were in charge of visuals, and there's people who were like just like had these visions, right? And I found that like getting everyone to speak the same language was really difficult, right? If you don't have that background in making the visuals, it's really hard to convey the feeling that the teal is going to bring out, right? If you don't know that the teal is what brings that feeling to life.
Mhm.
What do you have any like ways that you break those silos of just operating in different languages when you're talking with the I think the DP or the director or anyone else who's coming to that vision board? Or how do you all end up getting on the same page, something that's so like innocuous?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you get to just do what feels right to you. So this was one of those where I like got the footage and I'm like, you know what? I've been wanting to experiment with like this. So I kind of started experimenting, making a few different looks. And then the DP was like, this looks great. And then we get that part of it signed off on. And then we take it to the director to after the whole thing was edited. And then we work together to just be like, okay, love this, let's do this. Next make sure we're seeing their faces or something like that. Yeah, I think that answered the question.
Yeah, I think with those friends too, it's really special that you can just like run with it at first, right? Or there's a different
Yeah,
sort of built-in credibility or whatever the word might be, but
yeah,
that's really special.
yeah.
Okay. Next one that seemed like a really cool project to be a part of, but that I could not describe at surface level without you telling me more.
Yeah, this one was another music video. Music videos are just kind of the ones where you get to have like the most fun on. Just doing something experimental or crazy because I feel like with music, you're not just going off of people talking or products. You're going off of the music, which is obviously making you feel a certain way already, and your job is to just complement the music. So yeah, this was Gunna's blindfold music video. This one was another one where I kind of got to like experiment a lot. And there's like things that you see, like other music videos that you see, like, oh, that was a really cool look. I wonder how they did that. And then you get to experiment with like music videos like this and just kind of put your own taste and vibe to it. Um, yeah, this was another fun one. Yeah.
That's so cool. I am kind of like randomly curious now with the music videos. When you were editing the colors, are you listening to that person's music in the background? Like, is there something you do to get into the mood of it? What is that like?
I mean, for this stuff, yeah, I'll at least listen to the track. Um, and like videos and stuff, or depending on what you're listening to. Fortunately, I really like the two songs, like mid song for that music video was really great. And then Blindfold was great as well. Like this was a great track for me. So I'll at least listen to it a couple times. But while I'm actually working on it, I'm like listening to like anything under the sun. I'm just like, because as a colorist, I'm always listening to music. It's kind of funny that you referenced DJing before because sometimes I feel like I'm DJing. Well, honestly, sometimes I'll just DJ for myself. Like I'll just start queuing songs up for a vibe that I'm feeling, and then I'll just be listening to those songs and then just working. Yeah.
That is fabulous. I feel like the tunes really make a difference when we're doing different projects, right? Or the background noise, it has to be
Yeah.
just right. And was this another one of those opportunities that just like kind of you stumbled upon, or how did you end up working on this project?
A friend of mine who's also a colorist was asked to work on it, and then this kind of happens. Like if you don't have time, you kind of pass it on to someone else that you trust. So this one was passed on to me, and I'm just like, yeah, I'd love to do it. So yeah, that's how I got this one.
Teamwork in all the
Yeah,
different ways,
yeah,
makes the dream work.
yeah. Because honestly, like there's definitely we're trying to have more of a sense of community here. Like I'm in a colorist group chat and like all of us live here in New York or in the New York area. And pretty much all of us are freelance or working at some facility or something. And just having that sense of community is great because then you can banter back and forth. You can ask questions if something's not working for you, whether it be financing, software, client issues, emails, just anything under the sun or us reminding each other to get outside for the day. Yeah,
So
that's the
sweet.
community is like really great for sure.
That's awesome. And I imagine, I mean, I could be very wrong. You please let me know. But when you're on a project as a colorist, you might be the only colorist, right? Like there's not, a team of 50 of you. And so to have that group where you can kind of go back and say, not even in a non-competitive way, like how do I do my best thing here? Or like how do I overcome this hurdle? Like what have you done in this scenario? That's so cool that you have that built in peer
Mhm.
network when you are in the trenches kind of alone otherwise. um
Yeah, because that's definitely the thing about not being at a facility is that you don't have your fellow colorist next door. When you guys are done for the day, you're not just like chatting and meeting up, or like, hey, come over here, this is what I did here, or like, hey, I saw what you did, let's pull up the project and look at it together. So it's nice to at least be able to have some sense of just togetherness, and just have that group. And we try to meet up every so often so we can meet in person and just get dinner or something together, because we're all working, like our offices and stuff like separately. So it's nice to at least be able to have some sort of like physical meetups for sure.
Yes, I always feel like if someone invites me or tells me about a group chat, like the answer is yes. Like just put me in there. I'll meet her depending on
Yeah.
the thing, but like for now, yes. Always say yes to the group chat or the
Yeah.
group Slack or whatever it might be. Um, okay, this final screen here, I hope
Mhm.
it's a movie because it seems like something I'd really like to watch, but maybe it's not a movie at all. What is this one?
So this one, Abby's Rose, was definitely one of those 4 a.m. College ones for sure.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah. This was the one where director and I, Connor and I are like really good friends. We went to SCAD together. This was one of his senior theses for the senior showcase, and we were working on this one at my apartment, and it started getting really late because we're still learning this process of just like how to deliver a film and like a DCP package. So there's like a list of things that need to get done in a finite amount of time to do it in.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm working as well at the college, so I'm at work for like 8 hours. And when I get out of work, and I have to work on these films. Um, so this one was definitely a lot of fun. I think come 11:30, 12:30, we had other friends coming over, and we're just like turning the music up, and we're just like rendering the project and just hanging out and having a good time. Yeah, so this was a really fun one. But yeah, Abby's Rose is a short film, written and directed by Connor Hagen, shot by another good friend, Garrett Monk. And it was definitely like the college vibe, the college friends getting together and just like making a movie for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And it feels like just an art school thing. Like in business school, we did not bring friends over and listen to music while we prepared our final presentation, I
Yeah.
feel like I missed out in a way, but I'm glad you guys had that experience and that we get to celebrate the art that came from it. So that's beautiful. Um, these have been so fun to talk through. So thank you for going there with me. Um,
Absolutely.
as we kind of abstract back out, I feel like collaboration has come up in a few different ways. You talked about like collaborating in that, the group of colorists in New York City. We talked about collaborating with the director or collaborating with your peers. Like, why does collaboration matter so much for your work as a colorist? And what keeps inspiring and motivating you to collaborate in new ways, to experiment in new ways, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I think it's just what everyone can bring to the table. I am not a director. I studied to be a DP, but I'm not a DP right now. I just love the different artistic ways people can come together and really make a project like really stick, like really something that everyone could be proud of. So that's why I really like collaborating and just finding people to work with. And I think the best ones are when you really get to know the person outside of like the film or the project, like what music they listen to, where they live, where they grew up, like what kind of hobbies they're into. And just getting connected in that way, because then I think it just makes the work that much stronger. Because then you can start having shorthands with people, and then you can have multiple jobs with them. So like, okay, you did a job with this person this time, then oh, we became good friends, we keep working together, and then you just know kind of what they want or kind of the vibe that they go after. And then you get to just have this great relationship together that just becomes more than a collaboration.
That's awesome. And maybe this is a term outside of your world too, but you mentioned having like shorthands with people. What does that mean?
Yeah. So like, I don't know, so you can describe something in different ways. So like
Oh,
warm, yeah, warm to someone might be said differently.
yeah.
Uh, so just having that just shorthand with
Like that
like,
little language that you guys share. That's
yeah.
that's so fun. I have to think more about like with my closest friends what we have as shorthand because
Yeah.
I love that idea. Um, any wisdom that you've accumulated along the way from the mentors that you've had or from your personal experiences that you think would be helpful to someone else who would be maybe trying to enter this world or just appreciates film and wants to be able to connect with it uniquely? Like, I would love to hear anything that you have to share.
I think the biggest one, because I was thinking about this, like, what did I learn? I'm like, obviously, I learned things, but it's like trying to pinpoint that
Yes.
one thing. Um, I feel like I personally try to get together an idea and package it up and make sure I have all my bullet points checked before I do something. And a lot of my mentors have been saying, don't wait, just do it. So like even if it's something like reaching out to people on Instagram, sometimes you kind of want to make sure you're not sounding like an idiot or sounding like a complete noob or being like, hey, sorry, like I'm like sorry to reach out, but it should just do it. People can be scary, but most of them are not scary. And what's the worst that can happen? They just don't respond to you, and you just move on with your life. It's like, okay, these people are obviously busy people. But that's one thing that I've definitely learned is to just like get after it, do it. If you have questions, ask these people questions. If you have someone's work that you really admire, talk to them. Reach out to them, DM them, get their email them, ask them to meet up for coffee. Because meeting people in person is like the greatest thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're interested in the work that they're doing, but you want to get to know them as well and who they are as a person, because that can help you learn what influences their work, like who they are as a person. So I've been trying to do that myself more in terms of just doing it. Like I have target lists that I have that's like a spreadsheet of people that I want to work with, and directors, DPs, agencies, production companies that I admire and want to work with and work with certain brands. But I have to reach out to them. So that's one thing I've definitely been working on, is just like, okay, every week try to reach out to one or two people, just at least put feelers out there. At least get your name out there and just be like, hi, Calvin, Colorist, love your work, would love to collaborate. Just something like that. So that's one thing that I've learned, and one thing I'm working on for sure is like not holding myself back, just getting out there and asking questions, just getting yourself out into the world. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's so important on so many levels. And I think for anyone who is intimidated by it, I personally like to do that kind of DM stuff while I'm like watching TV. I'm like, I wouldn't have been doing anything else anyway. Or like, this is
Yeah.
not a waste of time. This is a gain. I feel like that helps a little bit. But I love how you described it as, it's not even necessarily like just about getting another opportunity. It's like, I really want to know the human behind this, right? Because knowing them will make my life just inherently richer, even if it doesn't lead to the next collaboration thing that we do. Like that meeting of the minds is so like special in itself. And I feel encouraged by your setting of an example that I need to do this more often also. So I hope everyone listens in and we can all try to bravely move forward with meeting people in person whenever we can. So that's awesome. As we are wrapping up here, I would love to hear anything else that you want people to leave knowing about you and your work, and anything that you're looking forward to right now. Any moves, any travels, any desserts. I'm a big dessert gal. So for me, it's always like just like the next cookie, but on any scale.
Well, have you been to Paris Baguette? That's like one of my favorite spots. It's such a chain in New York, but it's like the pastries there are
No
just,
way. They just get it right.
they
That's
just get it right. Because at the post-production company, we had this one job, and then it was just that job. And the 2D department just kept slinging it up, slinging it up. And us assists were just like, oh my gosh, this is like a month and a half of just craziness. And one of the producers got us like a big box from Paris Baguette. And we came in early in the morning because, of course, we're like the first ones there. Just all right, here we go again. There's donuts, there's croissants, there's pastries. Wow, who got this for us? And then the
oh
producer
my
calls
goodness.
up, hey, did you get the pastries? We're like, yes, we did. Thank you. Paris Baguette pastries. I guess that's one thing I want to
I'm
say.
so excited. I will keep you posted. It has to happen.
Yeah. It's like a chainy thing here, but for me, their pastries hit the spot. Like, obviously, you want to find your mom and pop hole in the wall in the city, which is like usually pretty good. But for a chain like pastry shop here in the city, like I've gotten Thanksgiving cakes and taken it to family there. So
That's I don't even know if they make it anymore, but McDonald's used to have like the bucket of cookies, like the tub of cookies. Like I'm sure Paris Baguette is infinitely better, and I love the tub of cookies. So don't even worry. I'm
you're
very
gonna love it. Definitely check it out. There's spots in Manhattan and there's one in Brooklyn, like downtown Brooklyn. So yeah,
oh,
definitely check it
a
out.
perfect proper adventure. I'm very
Yeah.
excited. So what are you looking forward to? Because now we know what
Pastry, that's what I'm looking for. Um,
I'm here. Ooh, my Siri just went off.
oh.
Weird. I don't know. Okay, sorry. What are you looking forward to?
Looking forward to honestly just learning. I want to get to learn from other colors. I want to get to collaborate with other artists. I want to get to know other people, other peers in my sphere of artistry within the film industry, and just continue to learn because that's really all I want to do is just learn, learn, learn. Because I know I have such a long ways to go. Because I think I mentioned this the last time we talked. It was like, what are you gonna do for the rest of your life? Color. Like, I'm not interested in anything else. And like, but honestly, I kind of feel fortunate just knowing exactly what I want to do. Like, if I'm not in the U.S., I'm gonna go to Europe and be a colorist out there. Like, I will be a color assistant in Europe. I want to go straight to London. It's just like there's so many post houses out there. You're like, hi, let me learn from you. So I'm definitely going to be in the color world for I think the foreseeable future. But what people should know about me, I'm shy. Like I'm doing this because this is a lot of fun. I have nothing to say about myself, to be honest with you. I just like love what I do. I love color. I want to continue going throughout the world, learning and seeing beautiful things and trying to incorporate that into my work and meeting like great, beautiful people that have artistic minds that I can just learn so much from and get so much inspiration from. And then just keep doing what I love. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that your craft and the way that you thoughtfully, answered all of my questions today is a real testament to who you are anyways. I think we all left with a really good sense of all the awesome that you bring to the table. And it's so exciting to get to think about all the cool work that you're going to get to touch in this long, hopefully, career as a colorist. And if it's in London, I'll definitely have some sweet treat ideas to send your
Oh,
way.
please.
It's a favorite city of mine, and I am very excited at the prospect of having friends over there. So this has been such a joy for me, Calvin. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I can't wait to share your story with a little bit of a different corner of the world, perhaps.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Cara. This was a lot of fun.